right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Two Planker Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Schaefer, and today on the show we got Meeks and a bunch of other people. And how you doing?
Man, doing good, man. Just living up in Park City, just trying to have a good time. Heart's beating a little faster now that I'm on a podcast.
Nah, it's mellow. It's mellow, man. We've been trying to set this one up. We've been trying to set this one up for a while now, and we're getting it done. First, we got a special guest with you. Who's your guest that you have with you on the couch?
Well, I got Wealthy with me. He's like easily in my top 5 favorite skiers alongside. I'm going to just shout out a lot of people on the podcast. And he's in my top 5 skiers alongside B-Dog, John Ware, Max Hill, Hornbeck, Wealth. Easily, he was the opener of the Zootspace. I mean, you might have seen him jump through some cement poles or go through a little what was that? A little fence or swing set. Yeah. So this is Wealthy. He's been known to jump through some shit. So he's one of the best skiers to ever do it, and we're just kicking back and we're sipping some beers, sipping some wines, having a good time.
Word. Wealthy, you want to say anything while you have the floor? You got to speak. You got anything you've been dying to say?
Honestly, not really. Yeah, I don't know. Hearing Meek say that shit's kind of crazy. He's been one of my favorite skiers for a while, and was one of like the big dogs I met when I moved out to Salt Lake. Helped me out a lot. Helped me on street trips. Helped me get on street trips. So all that's great, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, Meeks, a lot of guys look up to you, and Wealthy, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you're a lot younger than Meeks. So how did you guys even meet in the first place?
I think it was at Hood, right?
Yeah, so Sanch, I don't know if you know Sanch, but Sanch, he's an elusive character. I'm not really going to speak on him. But he looks exactly like my best friend Wabby. And so, like, we used to call Sanch Brother Wyman, but, like, we never really talked to Sanch. And then, essentially, we saw Sanch and Welf skiing at Hood, and they were just skiing so good. And we started, like, chopping it up with them and becoming homies with them. And then I lived at this house that what was the situation at that
house with Warren?
Yeah.
The first year that I lived in Salt Lake, I was staying with Sanch and then 2 other heads, and we rented the basement room out to Meeks, which was
so they rented me the
basement room. Like,
they rented me the basement and
popped air mattress on the floor.
It was cursed. It was a horrible situation.
Cement floor.
It's kind of a crazy situation, but the summer before that, I was like working at Hood, and I met my homie Dirty Mike, who's also in the room right now. And Dirty Mike introduced me to this homie Connor, and I ended up moving in with Dirty Mike in Salt Lake. And it was such a bad living situation. I needed somewhere to live, and I hit up Sanch, and I ended up that place sucked. But I ended up moving in with Wealth and Sanch and lived there for the winter, and it was a really nice situation in the sense of, like, they became like 2 of my best friends, but at the same time it was I don't think I did myself any favors because I was living in the basement.
There's a pile of trash in the kitchen.
There's a pile of trash in the kitchen.
Basically, you got
it was a really gross place to live, but I did make 2 really good friends, and that was probably in like 2017. So yeah, I'm a little older than them, but those are also my bros.
That's tight. So what's the living situation right now? You still living in the basement? A basement? Any basement?
No, I've upgraded myself. Like, yeah, I'm trying to live like in a good situation. So I'm living in Park City now with my homie Dre. He actually is an OG pipe skier. He's 40, but he was in the US Open of terrain park skiing. And he Actually, still, like you might see him on the gram, Michael Draymond. He has a alley-oop rodeo 5 in the pipe still, and he's probably like one of the only 40-year-olds that has that trick. So I live with him and his girlfriend. Super nice spot. Amazing.
Dude, moving up in the world. Love to hear that. So, can we go back a little bit where you're originally from? Because I think I'm traveling through the Midwest right now. From my research, it seems like you're a Midwest guy that moved west. Does that sound about right?
What kind of research are you doing, bro?
I'm doing a little deep dive, typing in your name on Google and reading some articles.
Okay. Articles, well, bro, he's probably dropping in on my golf career, bro. Yeah, I grew up outside of Chicago. My grandma actually, like, there's some crazy lineage of like my grandma. She founded Park City in the late 1980s, and she was an amazing skier, and she was actually on the U.S. ski team and was pregnant with my mom because she was actually about to be in the Olympics in the 1964 Olympics with Penny Patu, who got silver medal in the 1964 Olympics. And she had this condo in Park City, so I traveled out here to PC all the time when I was a little kid, skied out here, and then I just like really fell in love with skiing. And I was living in the Midwest, like probably the worst. Chicago's like probably the worst place to ski when you're a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, but I would always come out and ski with my grandma here or in Vermont, where like she actually lived. And then, yeah, when I was 17, I moved out here like
Yeah.
full time.
So before we leave Chicago, because we won't talk about your childhood too much, what was it like for you? Were you a troublemaker growing up? Were you a good kid? Like what was Meeks like as a youngin?
No, I was a super good kid. I never got into any play. I was like a little wild child, honestly. I I don't know. I wanted to go to college to play golf. That was kind of like my whole wave when I was a kid, and and then when I was like 17, I went to Hood for the first time, which is a story we can talk about when I like as the podcast goes on. But I essentially got kicked off of the golf team for my grades were like a little bit on the poor side, and I like went to I kind of struggled between like I loved skiing and I loved golf. And when I was like in between my sophomore and junior year of high school, I really wanted to ski, but I also really wanted to golf. And then I went to Hood for the summer, and then I went to Hood for the summer and fell in love with skiing even more. And then um, pretty much essentially decided that that was like the move was to like go ski. But man, when I was a kid, I think I probably gave my parents some issues, but for the most part, I was like relatively chill.
Nice.
Crushing a couple of bands underage.
Yeah, whatever. That's par for
Like I think I was like I was like a pretty good kid.
yeah. So what was that? I mean, yeah, tell us about that first trip to Hood, because that seems like that changed stuff for you.
Yeah, so you want the real deal Holyfield, or you want the long story or the short story?
Listen, man, whatever is important to you, that's what we want. Whatever affected you the most, that's what we got to hear.
All right. So I think I was 16 and I was dating this girl and I really liked her. And she ended up actually dumping me. And then that was in like March, and I was caddying, like I was saying, I was like really into golf and stuff, and I was caddying at this country club in Chicago, and um, I just started caddying a ton and trying to save up some bread. And then like June 1st rolled around, and I was like, man, I got like 5 racks saved up, which at the time when you're in high school, it seems like a crazy amount of money. And then I started going on New Schoolers in class in high school, and like seeing that I could essentially go to Hood and ski all summer. I'd went to Windell's before that, like a couple summers before, which I actually paid for myself off of the caddying game when I was 14. But I went to Windell's and actually learned my first 270 on from Tom Wallish and Hornbeck. That was pretty G. The day they filmed the segment where Wallish does that zero spin where he doesn't move. And then I snapped my collarbone there, and whatever. Long story short, I was caddying in Chicago, saved some bread, went on New Schoolers. I met this homie on New Schoolers named Ninth Ward Skier, and he told me that he had a place for me to live. And so I flew. I had all this money saved up, and I was really, at that point in my life, I was like kind of beefing with my parents, like just normal teenage shit. And I was just like, well, I have my own money. So I flew to Oregon, and Ninth Ward Skier didn't pick me up from the airport. So I hitchhiked up to Hood, and I went to the Summits, which if anybody who's ever been to Hood knows that the Summits is like one of the best places to be and one of the worst places to be. And I gave a homie $300 to let me sleep on the floor for the month of June. I was sitting out in the rain, actually kind of like a low-key snowboard legend, this guy named Jeff DeForge. And I gave him $300. He let me sleep on the floor. And then I like skied up at Hood all summer. So the next day, I actually met the Ninth Ward Skier on Hood, on Hill, and his name was Scrappy Joe Young. And so Scrappy Joe Young, I met him on the lift, and he was trying to sell me some Kush. And I wasn't down with that, obviously, because I was just like, man, who's this guy? And then I just became really good friends with like Scrappy and Briggs and Freed, and spent the whole summer at Hood that year. And then went back, that summer I spent at Hood and skied. I think I skied 75 days in a row, and just had a really sick time. I ended up getting a job in the dish pit there because of Scrappy. And fuck, man. Yeah, I don't really know. I went back to Chicago that next fall and kicked it with a bunch of kids from the Midwest, and realized I wasn't going to go to college and I was going to go ski a ton. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of a long, drawn out way of bringing that up. But it was, I was a little child up at Hood. It was awesome.
No, that's perfect. So when did you make the jump and move out to Salt Lake?
Right when I graduated high school. So when I was 18, I went back to Chicago that year. So I guess maybe it was between my junior and senior year of high school. And the next year I rolled out to Salt Lake. Or after I graduated high school, I actually didn't even walk at my high school graduation. I just went straight to Hood and then skied at Hood that summer. Actually ended up getting into wine because of that. And then went to Salt Lake the following winter and just tried to pursue skiing, I guess, or whatever you call it.
Yeah. So when you moved out, you weren't going to school out there. You were just moving out to ski.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll keep this moving along because we could go down so many rabbit holes. But is this around the time when Hood Crew's starting to get together? You mentioned a bunch of names that a lot of people recognize. When did that come about?
Well, I think it was kind of going off that summer, because you guys might remember, or anybody who's been in the game watching ski videos for a long time might remember a video called Too Hot for Summer Camp. Actually, the summer before that, or summer where I first lived at Hood, we didn't really film a full video. We just kind of skied, had fun, whatever, and lived in the woods and whatnot. And I lived at the Summits, lived in tent, whatever, the whole 9 yards. And then the following summer, the summer I graduated from high school, I went to Hood and, of course, linked with Scraps and Briggles, and we filmed this video called Too Hot for Summer Camp. And I think that was like Hood Crew was already going at that point because they'd filmed a full length video at that point called Every Day's a 420 based off every a Saturday, which I highly recommend that if you haven't seen it, everybody go watch it because there's amazing footage in there. And then that summer, yeah, we filmed Too Hot for Summer Camp and then kind of like kept it rolling from there.
Yeah. And so what was like for what you were doing? Obviously you're filming with the guys and stuff. Were you trying to pick up sponsors? Like where were you at kind of mentally for skiing? Or were you just trying to ski as much as possible?
I think I was just trying to ski as much as possible. Like I have to give a big shout out to Mike Schneider at Surface Skis because he like really was the first person to put me on as a ski sponsor, and he paid me a little bit of money, but for the most part, I was just trying to ski and work too. You know, I was working nights in the kitchen at Timberline. I've always worked when I'm skiing, and like, yeah, Mike plugged me up, and yeah, I worked that summer at Timberline, and I wasn't really thinking necessarily about sponsors in terms of like getting paid to ski, like as doing as a profession. But I was thinking also more about like I just really wanted to ski 200 plus days a year and like really be out there and getting it, like you know, just trying to like push myself, I guess. And like I love skiing so much, and I was so obsessed with it. And I still am. So I can take it into the bedroom if it's too loud in here.
All right. So now we're in a new location. I forget where we left up. Oh, so we were talking about work. So you had a good setup where in the summers you were able to ski and work because a lot of times people just, you know, they go work construction and that's it. And then in the winter they ski. So you were able to ski and work during the summer. What else were you doing throughout the year to make a little bit of money?
So in the summers, I was working at Hood. At first I was working in the kitchen up at Timberline Lodge for a couple of years, and then shout out to Logan Stewart. He put me on in the cat, and I ended up driving cats at Hood for I think like 4 or 5 years. And I brought Effie out there and Wabs and the kid, and we drove cats for a while at night. And so like that would allow us to ski during the day. And then in the winter, at least like before I was like in a good financial position to ski throughout the winter, I would I worked at hotels in Park City and from like 2011 to like 2015 or 2016, and valeted cars and drove people like to and from the town of Park City. And yeah, just then when I blew my knees, like this is older, I started bartending in Park City. This is like in the last couple of years. And so yeah, like worked at Hood, and but really for the most part in the summer and fall, I made most of my money off of the wine game. So like working harvest some wine, was able to like usually save some good cash making wine.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's pretty integral to where you're at now. So if you could just explain a little bit for the people, because a lot of people don't know anything about wine, including myself. Like, where do you go to work the harvest? You know, like it sounds like you're working in the wine fields, even though you know it's probably not as rough as
No,
some.
it's not like
Yeah. So yeah. So how does that whole thing work for you?
so. I guess I'll just take it off the top.
Yeah.
Like when I was first getting into wine, or like when I was first working at Hood, I was working in the kitchen at Timberline when I was like 17, 18. I was washing dishes up there with Scrappy, prep cooking, and I didn't have a car at that point. I was like a kid, you know, little fresh out of high school, or in high school, fresh out of high school. And then so I would hitchhike to the hill every day. And I met this guy hitchhiking who was a winemaker in the Willamette Valley. And the Willamette Valley, and for those of you who don't know, is in Oregon. It's outside of Portland, and it's really where they're making like the most premier Pinot Noirs in the United States. And so I hitchhiked up to the hill with him, and I was just talking about like, yeah, I don't have a car. I wish I had a car. And he was like, you should work a wine harvest. You would make some serious cash. And this is my first summer out of high school, and I had this big plan of like working at Timberline for the whole summer, and I didn't have any plan for October, November, September, and so essentially I was like, oh, that sounds super dope. I could like go, because essentially he was telling me that you could go work like 80 hours a week and save like 5 or 10 grand, which when you're 18 years old, 5 or 10 grand sounds like all the money in the universe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I went up to work that day, and like kind of I call a lot of things in my life, like shout out to Wabs for this, but I call a lot of things in my life like cosmic showbiz. I found out essentially that the head chef at Timberline, his wife's family owns one of the most poppin' wineries in Oregon called Stoller Family Vineyards. And I asked him, or like the head chef, he really liked me. I was, grinding in the dish pit, grinding in the as a prep cook. And I asked him if he would get me an interview with Stoller. And he was like, for sure. And so I ended up, because of that guy, I ended up interviewing at Stoller Family Vineyards for a harvest. And they didn't give me the job, but he also got me an interview at like 2 or 3 other wineries in the Willamette Valley. And one of the places took a chance on me. Penner which any wine drinkers out there that are listening to this, they know that Penner, I mean, it's got bought out now, but like Lynn Penner, she's a pioneer in terms of like the sense that she was one of the first female winemakers to like really get things popping off, and for her, like for the ladies, and she is incredibly smart, genius probably. And I went and worked for her, and yeah, I sucked at like this is in 2010, I think, or 2011, and I didn't know anything about making wine. I didn't know anything about wine, but like when I was a kid, I grew up, and I would, my parents, like I come from a big food family, and my parents would sometimes open wines and let me like try a little sip and stuff. And I knew I liked it, but I didn't really know like anything about it. And so I worked for Lynn Penner in 2010, and I was like, I'm never doing that again. Actually, a crazy story about that is that you do these things in wine called pump overs, which is like where you're pumping wine through essentially a fire hose, like over the top of a tank as it's fermenting to like extract all the nice textures and flavors and tannins from the wine. And Lynn Penner is like one of the most accomplished winemakers in the world, and she never let me do a pump over. And then I finally convinced them to let me do pump overs because I thought it looked super cool. And she was like standing down on the ground, like 20 feet below me, and I was on top of this tank, and she's like, Foster, like yelling at me like I was doing it wrong. And I looked up, and as I looked up, I just lifted the fire hose with me, and I blasted her with like all this wine. And so I really sucked at it, man. And like I thought that I never wanted to do it again. And then the next year, which I think was 2012, I was broke again, and at the end of the summer, and I said I was never going to do it again. I bought a car when I was like off of the wine shit when I was like 18, and I said I was never going to make wine again. And then next year I was super broke, and I applied for all these jobs on winejobs.com. So if anybody out there wants to get into the wine game, that's how you're going to get into it. And I applied for all these jobs in Napa, and I got interviewed. I got brought down to this place called Odetta Estate, and I worked for 2 people who were incredibly instrumental in my life. Like this guy, Adrian Halpin, who's to this day one of my very best friends in the world. I fucking love him. He's the best dude ever. And he was my cellar master at that time. So he was like essentially my boss, and me and him, we didn't really vibe at first. And then after a couple weeks, we both realized that he was from like Southern California, and I like grew up skiing and whatnot. And so like I liked E40 and he liked E40. And so we just like became friends over the fact that we both liked E40. So shout out to 4x9 and the hyphy edits. And we became homies at that point, and he really like just taught me a lot about like how to make wine, and still to this day he does. He's incredibly smart. And so I worked for them at Odetta State in 2012, and we made 100 point wine. And from there, I just like kind of kept going back every year, and I just thought the money was cool. But essentially, more than that, I just thought the whole process was cool. Like making wine is beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like,
That's like the start of the story, I guess, of like making wine.
yeah.
And yeah.
Well, it's interesting because in life there's like different seasons of your life and there's multiple things happening at once. So it's kind of hard for us to nail down, because at the same time you're skiing and doing the wine and going to Hood and filming.
Yeah.
So we'll try to keep it all under control. But so in the off season when you're not doing wine, are you thinking about wine at all, or like is that just like, hey, that's just where I make my money and now I'm
Like
skiing?
like right now, or
No,
like
no, no.
when I was
But back at the beginning.
definitely not.
Yeah.
I just it still like, even though I was having a good time in California when I was like 21, 22, um, I wouldn't really say I was thinking a lot about wine in the off season, like during ski season. I was at that point mostly just thinking about making turns and having fun on the skis. And man, Frito always brings it up. I never really thought it was like a bad thing, but Frito always brings it up of like when I first started making wine, I was going down there. I was more essentially like really lonely. I didn't really have a lot of friends down there. And Napa's a town where, unless you're like in your 30s, it's kind of hard to break into the scene in terms of like making a lot of friends. So I had crazy living situations at that point, and just like I was trying to like hunker down and just save all the money that I could, so I didn't like really ever like step out and make really many friends in Napa. So when I was back skiing in the winter and the spring and the summer, at that point, I was like mostly just thinking about like skiing.
Yeah. So we'll focus on skiing for a second.
Yeah.
Like the Hood crew is one of the best crews of all time, bro. It's
Is it?
just it's just people love it because it was like the first of the rider filmer, like it wasn't super professionally done, obviously. It was just fun and people loved it because it felt like friends handing off the camera doing crazy
Oh,
shit. And I think that's like the style now of people handing off the camera, you know?
yeah, I guess, man. Damn. Like, because to me, I would never discount the Hood crew. And like, I love, obviously, like, the Hood crew is like a huge part of my skiing journey and like how I met all of my friends and stuff. But like, when I think back on those videos, I just think that we were like our skiing was so good and we were killing it so hard and like just going off, going huge. But like, we weren't really doing it justice with the filming and the editing. But
Mhm.
then all Freed is like the illest homie ever too. I love him. He's my brother.
Yeah. So you wish that you guys like put a little bit more thought into like the how you filmed everything and how you edited everything?
Well, I think in hindsight I do, but at the time it didn't seem like that. At the time I thought that it was like I thought it seemed like kind of just like the wave that we were on, and I think we were being really true to ourselves, and we were just skiing at Salt Lake and having a lot of fun. But I think it needed to like kind of change at some point, which it did.
Yeah. So what did that change look like? And like was it intentional or did you just kind of grow into it?
Bit of both, I guess. Like for me, I guess like first things first, like what the change looked like, it was like and making better ski videos, you know, like stuff that's more timeless. Like, I guess in a sense, you can think of the Hood Crew stuff as timeless. And please don't take this as me hating on the Hood Crew. Like, I love what we did with the Hood Crew, and like Scrappy's my favorite skier ever, and or one of them, and Briggs is like an incredible skier, and obviously 40's ski career like speaks for itself. He's one of the best of all time, if not the best. And I think that like we made some really good videos, but I don't really necessarily think that like the way that we portrayed our skiing at the time was the best way of like portraying like how good the skiing was, because the skiing was really fire, and we were kind of like on our own wave at that point. You know what I'm saying? And just like making like essentially home videos of like skiing, but those videos are awesome. But like what I guess what the change looked like was starting to ride for ON3P and putting out better videos, like more like just more like timeless videos, like not necessarily skiing was better, but like that the like production and the way that the skiing was filmed was better. I think we had the filming figured out, and I think in a sense we had the editing figured out. I think it was just like a really raw way of looking at skiing that like most people who have lived in like the ski lifestyle like have made ski or like know that this is actually how it is. But I think we were the only people that were actually portraying like the entire lifestyle and the skiing the way that it was. And I look back on those movies and I'm like really thrilled about them. They're amazing, you know?
Yeah.
But I have a hard time, I guess, watching the videos from like 2015, 2016, 2014, because it's like at that point, I think that like we were popping enough on our skis that we should have been filming better movies. But when I watch the like older videos from like 2012, 2011, 2013, I think that those videos kind of are like representative of like where we were at in terms of like how we were living, personal, and like they're just like fully representative. And so I guess I like the older movies more. But I have to give a huge shout out to Freed, because he was really dedicated to like making these movies like as good as they could be, and he's awesome. I love that guy. He's just an incredible dude.
Yeah. We'll keep it moving along because I mean, you talked about the transition for taking the skiing a little bit like
More serious.
more serious. Yeah, exactly. So when did ON3P come into the fold? Because I feel like that's some of your best videos that I've ever seen, and some of my favorite. My favorite's the hood one. But like, when did you get linked up with ON3P?
I got linked up with ON3P. Oh, shit, I don't know, probably around 2017,
Mm-hmm.
sometime around then. And I've been like good friends with BMAC from the Bunch. I don't know if you know BMAC from the Bunch, one of the best ever. He lived with me and Heffy, and the kid, or I think it was me, Heffy. I don't know. There's a couple of heads in that house. Alec Nelson, also another Hood Crew legend. BMAC lived with us one summer at Hood in like 2013, and all the Bunch homies had been coming over to Hood, and you know we just were like, you know, at that point like Magnus and those guys, like they were the Swedish guys. We were like kind of like the young head Americans. They were the young head Swedish homies. And then Magnus started riding for ON3P, and actually in like 2012, I think, Scott at ON3P had messaged me on New Schoolers and was like, "Yo, we should. I'd love to get you on the skis." Blah blah blah. At that point, I was just like riding for surface, and ON3P was like first kind of starting up, and I was not really down with them. And then I saw kind of what they were doing for Magnus and BMAC's career, like 6 or 7 years later, and Scrappy's career. At that point, they were like paying people, and they were just like getting people on, like making videos, and like this is the company to be on in my book. And I was riding for Surface, and I asked Surface for a pro model, and the guy Mike Schneider, the guy who started Surface, he actually was selling the company, and so he was like, "Yeah, I can't really like give you a pro model because I'm selling the company." And then at the same time, Magnus was kind of hitting me up like, "Yo, you should send in a video to On3P. Like, I think they'd put you on." And then I sent a video to On3P of like the shit that I'd gotten that year, and Scott was down to put me on, and I think he was down to pay me a little bit, and just like seemed super supportive, and so yeah, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go ride for On3P. I mean, this is the company, this is the brand to be on. So that was like 6 or 7 years ago. I think at this point I'm actually now the longest tenured rider on On3P, and it's big shout out to Magnus, man. You know, he put me on because I think at that point, like the other like there was nobody else to ride for. And at this point, I'll never ride for another company besides ON3P and for the rest of my ski career. It's ON3P, and then I'm gonna retire.
That's super tight. We got a lot of questions about the pro ski because that's a huge deal. And so,
Okay.
well, I'll pick out the two best ones. I like how they phrased them, or did they just kind of summarize it the best? So Nick, he asked, "How did you get the opportunity to have your own pro ski, and how did you pick the graphic?"
That's the first question. What's the second question?
The second one is Ryan asked. He said, "The pro model is Modelo, but you're a wine man. Is there going to be a wine ski soon?"
Those are both fire questions. All right. So how did I get the opportunity? Was at some point, probably like 4 years ago, if I had to guess, ON3P was able to start like getting a little bit more flexible on the graphics. Like they bought this new graphic machine, and they wanted to print a bunch of top sheets on the skis. I think this was 5 years ago, maybe. This was like right after ON3P 3 dropped, right? Like, which probably 5 years ago at this point. And they Scott, the owner of ON3P, hit me up, and he's like, "Yo, I want to make a ski with your name on it, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Dude, that's my biggest fucking dream. Like, since I was a kid, that's, you know, having a pro model ski to me that's the creme de la creme. It's what you do. You know, I mean, if you've made it in the ski game, you have a ski with your name on it." And so, of course, that was like the biggest thing I wanted to do. And so in terms of like how did the graphic come up, this is like 5 or 6 years ago, and I was just crushing a lot of cans at the time and loved Modelo's. And you know, there's a little bit of a story about Modelo's. It's actually the first beer I ever drank with my dad when on my 18th birthday. We were on a boat, and I turned 18, and my dad gave me a Modelo, and I loved that gold foil on the Modelo. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and because my dad had blessed me with that Modelo, it was always my favorite beer, you know? And so always was trying to drink those, and I thought it would look cool on a ski, and Scott agreed, and then he designed the graphic, and he threw the dinosaurs on there for the Canosaurus Rex, which is actually like a video that I don't think many people know about, but yeah, it's kind of like some old hood shit. And I love dinosaurs too. So he threw the dinos on there. He threw Mount Hood on there. There's a lot of subtleties to the graphic. Yeah, it's been such a blessing to have that ski, man. I trip when I see people skiing on that ski. It's like the craziest thing to me. Like, man, somebody's fucking skiing the ski. But could you think of anything cooler than that?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah,
Nothing is cooler than somebody skiing on your ski.
it has your name on it.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing ever. Ever. It's like nothing in life could be cooler than that. Besides actually somebody sipping your wine. But so that was how the graphic came about. And then in terms of the ski, we designed it like in like 2019, like probably 2 years before it came out. And then we were about to release the ski, and I was in Europe, and then I blew my knee in Europe. I actually at the time didn't know that I blew my knee. Just thought that I like tweaked it pretty bad. And then I came back to the States, and we were like about to release it. And then this is kind of where the story gets a little sad for a second. And I ended up tearing my ACL like right before that ski came out. And I was at that point, to me, skiing to me is still everything. But at that point, like skiing, I didn't have any other outlets really. Like I made wine in the summer, but I was devastated, dude. And I spent about 9 months rehabbing the knee, and came back, filmed Summer at the Cap, which I think is probably my favorite segment that I've ever filmed. And at that point they were like, yeah, we're gonna give you the ski, like we have it all designed, and we're gonna print the ski. And so I skied the whole the whole spring, the whole summer of the Cap, like fresh off of these ACL injuries, or this first ACL injury. And then I went down to the ON3P factory, and they gave me the ski, and I was like, this is the sickest thing that's ever happened to me. It's the best day of my life, I really felt like that. I was like, this is the best day of my life. Next, they were like, yeah, just go film a couple clips on it. And I obviously wanted to film like a couple clips on it. I wanted to snap. So I go to Hood the next day. This is like mid-July, and I was supposed to move back to Napa the next day. And I go up to Palmer. This is like probably about 13 months after I did my first ACL. And I started skiing super hard and was just going crazy. I was snapping. And I was filming with my homie Husak. And we were filming like a little video for, I think at that point we were like filming this video like for the ski. And it was the only pair of the Meeks skis that were made. And I ended up like stacking like 2 or 3 clips with Husak for like the release of the ski. And then every day that I would ski, or like most days I would ski Hood, I would go like have lunch in the rocks and like drink a cold one. And so I did that. And I came back and I was just like gassed up. I like wanted to go huge. Put in like an up rail to knuckle, and I was doing these hand drags to switch all day. And I was like, dude, I just want to like blast one. Like I want to like bust a hand drag. I did like 10 hand drags to switch that day, and I was like, I want to like do one and go huge. And I came mobbing into that, and they'd actually salted the in run right before that, which I didn't know. Like usually they salt at like noon, and they salted at like whatever 1:30 that day, and it's not on them, it's on me. And I just mobbed in, and then like right before the in run, I just picked up a ton of speed, and I hit that up rail, and man, I dropped probably 40 feet out of the sky to flat. Like I went huge to too huge. I like the first day that I got the ski, dropped like 40 feet to flat. I blew my other knee, and it was crazy because I like stood up and I started walking, and I heard my knee blow. I heard myself blow my knee, and I was like, this is fucked. And then like I stood up and started walking, and like I thought my left knee, which is the OG knee that I blew, I thought I blew that again. And I just had so much adrenaline and stuff that I like took a step on it, and I was like, oh my God, my knee's fine. I'm okay. And then I took another step, and then realized that I blew my right knee. And then in terms of the ski, like because of that, I was just like, I didn't want to release the ski when I was hurt. I wanted to release the ski on a positive note. So then I rehabbed my other ACL for another year, and then we released the ski in 2021 maybe, or like, I don't know, about 2 years ago. And So yeah, it's kind of like a insane story of how I got the ski in terms of like the timeline, because it was like supposed to be happening for so long, but it didn't. Like we had the ski for like 2 years or 3 years, and then we didn't release the ski for another year and a half or 2 years, and like whatever. Honestly, to me, that ski is more of a testament to the work I put in the rehab, because we released that ski once I was good. And I just have to give a huge shout out to Scott and Sean at ON3P for like releasing that ski and making that ski, because it is the singular highlight of my ski career is having that ski. It's fucking amazing, dude. Something I take a lot of pride in. I feel just really blessed to like have them put a ski with my name on it. And then when I see people skiing that ski, trips me out, man. It's the craziest thing, because yeah, I know I'm a good skier, but I don't think I'm good enough to like where there would be kids that would buy a ski with my name on it.
Yeah, that's
But anybody who has that ski and anybody who gets that next Meeks Pro model, there's one rule about that ski. You know what that rule is?
what is it?
You're not allowed to do front swaps on it.
Why is that the rule?
Because we don't do front swaps, dog. We only do back swaps, or we do blindside spins, bro.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, maybe some front side spins like out of the rail, but ain't no front swaps going down on that ski. They shouldn't be, at least. And if you're doing front swaps on that ski, I salute you, but you should probably slow down on the front swaps and only do blind swaps.
Respect. So hey, the follow up is the next one. You had the can crusher. Are you gonna have a wine ski next? That's what Ryan's wondering.
Dude, I don't think so, bro. Honestly, I think I'll have another pro model with ON3P, and I'd like to. I think that would probably be like the last thing I'd like to promote in my ski career. But I don't think I want it to be a wine ski, man. Like honestly, I think I want to like keep the wine stuff and like a little bit separate. You know, it's a different person. It's different Meeks.
Yeah, I respect that.
So I don't really know what the next pro model looks like, but it's not going to be a can ski, because I'm not really drinking that many Modelos anymore. I'm only on Bud Lights now, and I think I don't know. I have like a couple of visions for the ski, but for now, I'm really just interested in like paying homage to Crypto and Oscar in terms of like rocking their pro models. So
that's tight.
ride
That's
that.
tight.
And I want to help their skis sell. And then at some point, I'd like to like get another pro model and ride another Meek ski and help design another ski. But for now, I just would like to ride my friends' skis.
Yeah, respect. So before we talk about the wine, because I'm excited to talk about the wine, um, what you said that you wanted to take the filming a little more seriously and kind of respect the skiing by having proper filming and editing with it. So what'd you think about all the ON3P videos that came out? Because like I said, those are some of my favorite of all time. And did you feel like that it was doing the respect that the videos did respect for the level of skiing?
For
Like I'm
sure.
talking, yeah, like 1, 2, 3, all those videos.
I think they're all different, bro. I think
Oh yeah,
Gustav is incredible. I haven't seen him in so damn long, but what I think they all really two. I'm not crazy about two, but two is you've seen them all, right?
yeah, yeah,
I think two is cool, and like honestly, if I produced that video, I'd be stoked on it. But we didn't really have like a lot of team time together. But one, Magnus, one Real Street, and then came and stayed at me and Wadley's house in Salt Lake for like 5 or 6 weeks. Magnus and Gustav, and he's keeping his X Games gold medal in his sock in our living room, and like the first night they got to town, he got in like 3 in the morning, And I like woke up at like 7 or 8 the next day, and the real street like results weren't released. And I was like, "How'd you do, bro?" And I just remember he whispered to me, "Bro, I won. I won." And I was like tripping, bro. At that point, he put me on ON3P the year before, and he's just like somebody who I like. Man, I just admire Magnus so much, bro. He's one of the most incredible people on earth. Like I just could not think more highly of him. And so he told me he won, and then we watched his real ski. And I was like, "Do you remember the year that he won real ski, bro?"
Yeah, that was like one of the early years of real ski. Yeah.
Yeah, but his video was like to this day probably like the illest video that could come out. It was so fucking sick.
Yeah.
And so he told me that he won, and then it just inspired me so hard to go. Like I just wanted to go hard, and like I felt like because of how he did, and and we filmed most of ON3P1 around Salt Lake. The exception of I actually had a couple clips in Finland, and my homie Antu, this homie who, damn, I wish he was still on ON3P, but this homie from Finland came over here and he filmed with us, and these guys stayed at me and Wabs' house, and it was just a really good time. It was like just a really simple time in life, and but like at that point I wasn't like really struggling financially, and I was skiing every day and just like having a blast. It was like that was probably like I wouldn't say it was the best skiing I've done in my ski career, but it was probably like one of like the best times of my life. That month and a half. And then 0-3P2 was the next year, and I feel like we kind of tried to force that because 0-3P1 was so good. Actually, let me backtrack real quick. I wanted to get on 0-3P because of the movie Leavin'. Do you know that?
Leave It. I don't believe I've heard of that one.
DIM. It's a video. It's not a full movie, but it's like Carl and Magnus and BMAC skiing in Salt Lake and in Sun Valley, and it was super fucking sick. And then I was like, dude, I want to get on a company that like makes videos like this. You know what I'm saying? And so I got on. We made ON3P1. It popped off. I thought it was a really good video, especially at the time. And I think it was really well received. Then the next year, we were like, let's like ON3P signed a bunch of other skiers like in that off season. And the next year, we made ON3P2. And to me, ON3P2, it's a banger because Jay Nilla was involved behind the like on the editing. Do you know who Jay Nilla is?
I don't believe so.
Bro, I'm gonna send you a seg once we're off the phone, bro. But
Yeah.
like, homie Jens Nilsson, he's like one of the original bunch heads, and he's the most talented cinematographer in the game, and B, he was the dude, the best skier in the world, in my opinion, like hands down. He's the fucking goat, dog. And so he was like chopping that video. He made it, he edited it, but like we didn't really spend a lot of time as like a squad for ON3P2, like filming all together. We filmed some clips on iPhones. It was just a bunch of different cameras. It was kind of whatever. But we released it and it was well received, I think. And I think it was well received. And then it was kind of whatever. But then ON3P3, Magnus kind of was like, yeah, we got to get this whole squad out to Hood. And I mean, that movie speaks for itself. I think it's like most people's favorite video of all time, right?
Dude, I think, honest to God, I'm not even saying this just because you're on the show right now. I think this might be my favorite video of all time. The skiing, the editing, it might be the best. It might be one of the best of all time.
It's the vibes, man. And that was my last summer on Hood where I would be like, that was an amazing summer. I mean, it was my second to last summer on Hood. I think it was my 10th summer on Hood. And it was one where I was like, dude, this summer is so fucking fun, bro. Every day we were just living for the moment, and like just everybody was skiing so damn good. And like we're skiing in the park, we were skiing in the or like whatever, like Hood Pow, Hood Street, like it was just awesome. And we had like the most stacked squad of ON3P riders at that point. You know, Crypto had just gotten put on, and of course, Lucas was on at that point, LSM, and Matt. It was just insane, bro. That summer, I mean, I have stories from that summer that are so goddamn crazy, bro. They were like, that was the most fun summer ever, bro. Actually, I think that was my last real summer on Hood. It was my last summer, like working up there and like doing the whole thing and like being like super committed to like getting up there super early. And man, shout out to Jack Borland and the Jenny, and he was the head digger up at Wendell's that summer, and we had a blast, and we filmed a lot of really good parts, or a lot of really good shots, and we built an amazing setup that summer, and man, we tore it up every single night. Fucking awesome, bro.
That's awesome.
And
Dude.
I met, like, honestly, like, I met my girl, like, not the girl who I'm still dating, but I met like my girlfriend of like 3 or 4 years up there that summer, and like it was just that was the time in life, bro. We were having so much damn fun, bro, and the energy was crazy, bro. The energy that Magnus brings with him everywhere he goes is untouchable, dude. He's a god, in my opinion. It's like he just he he brought crazy energy to Hood that summer, and like we all just snapped on our skis and we just followed the ski man's lead, bro. He's my hero, though, bro. The ski man is my hero.
That's so tight. That's a great story, dude. So
yeah, that summer that we went crazy, and dude, everybody always says like, "Yo, your ON3P shots are like my favorite shots you ever." I have 4 shots in that whole video.
dude, they're that good. They're literally that good.
I think so. I hope so. But I don't. It's not really like stacked a lot of clips in that video. I just think it's like, I think it's just, it's like we we went off that summer. We skied really good, the whole gang, and I wasn't skiing good every day, but the days that I was skiing, man, I was snapping. I was
Dude,
going in.
it's that one shot in particular, the fisheye on the flat down, the backslide like cork 3.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, dude! That like, oh,
That shit was crazy, bro. It was the first day of like that of session 1, I think, and I just wanted to shut the park down. I just wanted to get the ender of the video on day 1, and I just like pulled through and fresh out of the rocks, and it's like, that was one and done, only try. I just was like, yeah, I'm gonna just do a 1 foot back 2, and I'm gonna go fucking huge, and I'm gonna reach my leg up to my head, and then like, yeah, just like one and done. First tried that shit, and it was a good time, bro. And I just remember seeing all the homies coming. Siver, Crypto, Magnus were all on the rope tow coming up the hill, and I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna go. And I like distinctly remember like pressing my leg into that rail and being like, dude, if I jump off of this right now, I'm gonna pretty much go jump all the way down to government camp. I was like, I gotta go huge, and then I jumped off of that thing, and and yeah, pretty much sent that thing halfway down to Govy, and just and I just remember looking in the outrun, just in the t-shirt, being so gassed up, overcast day, OSAP Berg, like, who's now one of the illest filmers in the game, is right when he got started, and Christian, like Goofy Goose, they were just like so shook. like and like I just remember seeing the look on Goofy Goose's face, and then seeing the look on Ski Man and Siver's face riding up the lift, and then just like Siver absolutely losing his mind. And I was like, that was probably the sickest thing I'll ever do in my life. It was so damn fun though, bro. I honestly like don't really rock with that trick anymore. I think it's like kind of a lame trick. But I was like, yeah, I kind of want to like do one like that again, like go huge like that.
that's so sick, dude. That's a great story, bro.
who hasn't seen that video in a while, that's probably like the one video I'd say is like worth going back and rewatching because it just captures like a lot of friends in a good time in life, and like we were just everybody was just good homies and still are, but of course, but like that was like when everybody was like really tight. We were just riding for a singular cause. We were partying in Portland, partying in Covey, and skiing really hard every day, and it holds a lot of really awesome sentimental value.
Yeah. Well, look at that. We got your great moment getting your pro ski. We got one of the best movies ever made, if not the best ever made. Let's talk about the new venture that I'm sure you're proud of, making your own wine.
Trying to think of like how to tell this story. Um, so hold on one second. Let me get a phone charger.
Yeah.
All right. So I was, of course, obviously, I like worked in wine forever, right?
Yeah.
And then so I always worked in production in winemaking, you know? And then the first year that I blew my knee, I worked for this winery in Hood River, Oregon. I was like planning on going to Hood River for the summer to ski. And then I like blew my knee up there. This is like in June. And so I was like, damn, all right, I can't work harvest like in production because I was hurt. And at that point, I got really hurt the first year that I blew my knee. Like I was on crutches for like 12 weeks or something. And I went and worked in wine sales for this guy in Hood River. And I was like, damn, like I know a lot. I know more about wine than I thought I did. Kind of like just selling the wine for these people or like to these people. And like I thought I was like, it's like, okay, I'm pretty good at wine sales, honestly. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And so went and worked in wine sales there that summer and fall and sold a shit ton of wine and was just having fun with it, and then didn't think too much of it. And then I came back to Park City and I worked at this place, Old Town Cellars, which is a wine bar in Park City. They also make their own wine. And I just started selling wine for them and started doing pretty well in that regard. And was like, damn, I can sell some wine. And then the next year I was like, okay, yeah, I'm never gonna sell wine again. Like I'm just like gonna keep skiing and working in wine production and blah blah blah. And then the next year I blew my knee, like I was saying again, which for anybody who's done it, it's horrible. And I got super super depressed. I was like in a really really bad spot. Like thought that I was like never gonna really be able to ski again. Didn't really know if I wanted to ski again. And came back and worked for Old Town Cellar. I worked production that year. I just drove a forklift all harvest at the winery I was working for. And came back and had another winter working at Old Town Cellars, rehabbing my knee. And honestly, it wasn't a very good winter, but also in that regard, like I like Steven and Jason, the two guys who own Old Town Cellars, the place where I was working for, they gave me like a really amazing opportunity to like get in on some wine, like buy in kind of to the like wine they were gonna push for their brand. And I bought into that, started seeing some success with that, and was just like at that point was just like still I didn't go to Hood that summer, but I was just like I was just I guess just like in a rough spot kind of, and like because of my knee and because I didn't really know if I was going to keep skiing. And then that next summer I like went back to or that summer I went back to Napa and was like, yeah, I gotta like I love wine. At this point, I just like at that point I was like drinking a lot more wine and like really just like starting to like understand why it's such an amazing thing. And I was like, you know what? I think like these guys gave me this opportunity to like kind of pop some shit off, and like I should probably like because I always kind of knew I wanted to start my own thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I also was like, I also was like, when's the right time, kind of? And like, I always thought the right time was going to be when I was like in my 40s. And then, because it's so damn expensive, it kind of takes away a lot of your money for like that, I would say for winter to like start your own wine shit. And so, but anyway, that summer I was just like, I mean, if it's going to go long story, I was like working with my homegirl, Elise Nerlove, at this place Fela in like 2017. Great winery, incredible wines. And I ended up living up on her property, the property that her dad owns. He's like in his 70s, and he's like, one of the best dudes I know. And I ended up living up there that summer, like the year I started Model Citizen. And Elise, really like my homegirl, there's a style of wine called a pet nat. That's like the oldest way of making sparkling wine in the world. And she was kind of like, yeah, I'll coach you through like making a pet nat, because I never made pet nats. And she was making pet nats for her parents' label at that point. And I loved her wines. I still do, of course. And so she was like, yeah, I'll like teach you how to make the wine if you like want to get involved. And I was like, all right, seems easy. Make some sparkling wine. And then I dropped in, bought a bunch of grapes, got into like a custom crush. So essentially, like I don't own a winery, of course, and like the equipment that it costs, like to make wine, would cost like millions of dollars. But like I'm one of like 30 or 40 producers in this winery that's like paying to use the equipment. And so she kind of coached me through how to make a pet nat, like the first wine that I made that I'm about to release. This is in 2021. And her dad, Ken Nerlove, he owns this wine or this vineyard called Elkhorn Peak. He's like one of the OG farmers in Napa Valley. He bought this property in the 70s, and he's just absolute legend. One of the fucking best dudes on the face of the planet, if not the best. He's like my West Coast like dad, grandpa, whatever. Like he's family to me. Like, these guys are incredible. And he opened up his books to me and kind of showed me how it could work on a financial sense to like make it work, and the margins I would need to make. And he really taught me a lot on the business side of things. And so I made this wine I made this wine in 2021 that I'm actually just releasing now. At this place, Napa Wine Company. And just it was more just like something where I was like, this is something I know I need to do, but it's not something that I think that I should do right now in terms of timing, because like I really wanted to be locked in terms of like just so much stuff. Like I wanted to be like financially in a better situation and stuff, but I like got into it because I just knew I needed like something in my life to like that wasn't skiing, that I could like put a lot of energy and effort into, because I put so much energy into skiing. And I need something to put a lot of energy into and a lot of effort into, like just for my personal self. And I started that because I've worked under these incredible winemakers, John Walden, Adrian Halpin, like the best winemakers in Napa Valley for so many years. And like these guys taught me so much, man. They're like these are some of my best friends, but also like some of like the most accomplished people in Napa, at least in their 30s, the most accomplished people in Napa, and just really intelligent, amazing people, and and incredible friends, dude. People who I love those dudes so much, bro, and I admire them so much. And they gave me a lot of like kind of they were just people who I could really drop back on and like get game from if I needed. And like when I was worried about the wine, they would kind of like coach me through any questions I ever had. And I was like, you know what? Now is the time. Like, I'm really glad I did it at this point, because I think that if I were to do it later in life, who knows what's going to happen when you're in your 40s. And there's a lot of things people push things off for a long time and just don't really accomplish what they want to accomplish. And a lot of like my whole philosophy on life is just getting after it, while you can, just get after it and just like make the moves that you want to make. And I think it was something that I thought about for a long time, and it was something that I was scared to do. And then once I started doing it, there was no turning back, and I just sunk all my money into it. And now the wines are about to be released, and everybody who's tasted the wines, I mean, they could be blowing smoke up my ass, but they love the wines. And I think they're incredible wines.
Yeah. So where can people get those when they're released?
So by the modelcitizenwines.com.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ship them to your doorstep if you're 21. And then modelcitizenwines.com, I'm going to partner up with some distributors like in the Northwest and the West Coast. But for the most part, like I would prefer to sell like the majority of the wines to the website. And Abner and I, Abner, Wibby Webs.
Yeah.
So Wabs has moved out to Napa like full time.
Well,
He lives in Napa now. And Abner, I actually got Abner into wine in like 2015, or I shouldn't say I got him into wine. He got himself into wine, but like I just like kind of liaison, like giving him an interview with like my homie Adrian. And I got Abner into wine, and he's like, dude, he's the smartest person in the wine game that's not named Adrian or John, bro. He's incredible. Like, he's so fucking good at what he does, bro. And so Abner and I are now like kind of in the process of starting a second label that's going to be like higher end stuff. Like the Model Citizen stuff is always going to be between $25 and $45 a bottle. Lower price point wines that people who are like our peers that are like into, people who like wine, they can afford these wines, and these are like approachable, nice price point wines. But then Abner and I are like, we're starting some new stuff where hopefully, and I think for sure going forward, like Abner's going to be making the wines for our new label. I'm just going to be kind of like hopping back and giving him a platform to shine, because he's going to be the best winemaker in the world, bro. He's incredible at what he does. And he's probably going to, if he hears this, he's going to be probably upset that I even said that. But to me, he knows he's learning under the best person that I know in wine, or one of the best people in wine that I know. And he's equally as smart as that person. And like, he's just so intuitive when it comes to wine. And he knows so much about the grapes and the barrels. And like, we're just on the same program, bro. And like, he and I think we're going to make a label that is going to hopefully just set us up for a lot of success in a lot of ways. And I know that the wines that I've tasted that he made this fall are among some of the best that I've ever had. And I just can't wait to see where it all goes from here, because it's going to be incredible. But modelcitizenwines.com. And then once we get our new shit going, like the wines that Wabs made this past fall, like most of those wines are barrel aging for 2 years. And I just have to give a huge thanks to my best friend for like having the balls, I guess, or like the nerves to like drop in so much of his own money into like believing into what we've done, because I think it's a really hard thing to do. And when you actually start investing thousands of dollars into something and you're creating a product, it's really scary. And he never once has blinked his eye at anything. And he's going to be the best in the world. So just watch out for it, in my mind. And he's probably going to get upset that I'm airing him out like that. But to me, there's nobody better. He's the smartest dude ever, bro. He's incredible.
Tell him about that round Wabby beat you on.
Yeah, I started playing golf a long time ago, bro. And like, Wabs just picked up golf, and he's just a natural athlete. And he like fucking beat me in golf like a couple times. Loves to talk shit about it, but Honestly, on a day-to-day basis, I'd still smoke his ass. I still do smoke his ass. And I'll smoke anybody's ass in Napa Valley. So if you want to come get this smoke, come holler at me.
Bang.
Are
Yeah.
there any more fan questions that need to be answered?
Yeah, we got a couple ones actually. We'll do some quick hitters, all right? So, Ryan, what's your favorite city to
Yeah.
film Street in?
Minneapolis, St. Paul. Easy.
Bang.
It's incredible.
Let's see. Who's the Steezy skiing? Who's the best street skier of all time?
Well, of course, B-Dog and Magnus probably. I'm going to go more off the beaten path and just like refer to a couple of skiers who I think have dropped parts that are incredible and don't they're not maybe these guys aren't the best skiers of all time, but to me they're like some of the best parts of all time. So John Ware all damn day, Jay Nilla full boast. Really, I love all the Max Hill skiing and shit, man. Any of the Brady Perone skiing, Mango, fucking the dude. Honestly, the people I'm skiing with now, Crypto, Oski, Ranch, like the new movie that we're making right now. It's like these dudes are like the best in the game. So there's just so many people. Henrik, of course. Like I loved all the people that were skiing in Henrik's video. Okay, but one more who I will mention as the best street skier of all time, or one of the top 10, is Wealth, the homie who I started the interview with. To me, he's like that part is one of the best parts ever. And then the kid, of course, it's like to me, all the kids skiing is untouchable. He's amazing. And A4 too. A40 Water is like one of my favorite skiers, and all these guys, man. There's just so many incredible street skiers.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a lot of love.
I would never even consider myself in the top 50.
You're get the fuck out of here, bro. Top 50? That's crazy.
Patty, Seamus, the Flanagan Brothers,
Yeah.
Harold, Manio, B-Mac from the bunch, Payben. You kidding me? All the old 4x9 heads, all the old stepped heads, Clayton, Cam, Charlie Owens is like one of my favorite skiers of all time. Dude, I just have like a bazillion like favorite skiers of all time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can narrow this one down a little more. Moffat, favorite after ski drink?
Right now,
Yeah, right now.
Bud Light.
Bud Light, baby.
Yeah. Bud Light's the only thing I'm drinking right now. I just love Bud Lights.
Here's a can crushing question. Jackson, what's the most number of cans you crushed before lacing a spot, and what was the spot?
Probably it's not really a spot, but probably that 1 foot back too.
Oh yeah.
Probably say like 15.
Holy shit, bro. You're a menace. The menace of Mount Hood, dude. I like
10.
it.
Yeah, if I'm being honest. In terms of a street spot, I never drink beers at the street spot.
Yeah.
Or not often, at least. Not if I'm skiing. I'm like trying to be a little more locked in than that.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to. It's tough to see how we wrap it up. I'll give you two more. Ryan
Okay.
Voyen. Ryan Voyen. What's the most hype you've ever been on a shot?
Like on a personal shot?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think in hindsight, that front four that I did that you posted for the story,
Yeah.
but I didn't ever really like. Now I'm kind of on a tip where I don't really watch my shots, like when I get them, so I didn't really know how much I liked that shot. But in hindsight, probably that lip slide disaster that I did into that down bar in ON3P4. That was like the last clip I got in ON3P4. It was really fucking scary. I went to my car and I cried after by myself because I was so scared. I FaceTimed Wabby and I started crying because I was so fucking scared of that spot.
That's some real shit right there. That's some real shit.
I guess like probably that one because I've never been so scared to do anything, and I got really like taught. Like I didn't like get broke off on that spot, but I got like played. You know, I was just getting hurt.
And we'll leave it off with the last one. Grant Harris, what is your plans for the future? What can we see next?
Well, this year I'm filming a video with Oscar, Weary, Andrew Branch, who maybe you don't know of yet, but you will know of him. He's the best skier of Mammoth. B-Dog always pays respects to him. And Crypto, of course. And so in terms of what we're filming this year, some banger street shit, and going for probably 1 or 2 more parts, if I had to guess. I'd like to keep skiing street and really just like to keep skiing hard like street until I'm 35, and I'm 30 now, so I'd like to film 1 or 2 more 2-year parts, something probably. So probably 1 or 2 more parts after this year, of course, film a part, and then after that 1 or 2 more parts, and then after that, man, some amazing wines. And you can still always catch me on the gram, probably skiing POW until I'm like 60 or 70, bro. We'll be out here getting it and out here skiing for a long time to come. I love this shit. But at the end of the day, my body is like hurting pretty bad. And I just would like to really ideally stretch out like how long I can like ski some street and go really hard and keep filming, but then also like start to make some better money and live like a good life. But yeah, I mean, you can always catch me skiing 100 days a year from now until probably, if I had to guess, it's 2023 right now, probably 2053. You can expect some good clips.
That's fire.
Like just in terms of like POW and just skiing, you know, I'm very dedicated to it. It's something I like take really seriously, and I love it a lot. And I'm trying to get my pilot's license and probably move to Napa, but like still ski 100+ days a year and fly to Mammoth and ski Mammoth on the daily. So I think that's really the game plan.
That's tight. And again,
Yeah.
where can they buy the wine? What's the website?
ModelCitizenWines.com.
Let's go.
And, yeah, I just appreciate before I get out of here, I just want to like give a shout out to a couple people. First of all, shout out to Scott and Sean at ON3P for supporting like everything that I've put on their plate, and I'm not probably always the easiest person to work with. And then shout out to Abner for being the best friend a guy could have and for stepping into this wine thing with me. And then shout out to all of our mentors, especially Adrian Halpin, John Walden, and Leo Tales, the Purple Tongue Wine Club, for like kind of coaching us through how to make this whole thing happen. And Stephen and Jason at Old Town Cellars, and anybody who's really supported me on my skis over the years, but especially Scott and Sean. And yeah, I can't wait to keep it all going. It's just getting good.
Hell yeah. Well, Meeks, thank you for being here, dude. I appreciate it. This was
Thank you
great
too.
talking.
I appreciate the platform and the opportunity to like, you know, tell my story and just, you know, like spread some good vibes or whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying? Here's my homie Dirty Mike. And yeah, here I'll give him one more shout out. He's asking, dude, you know I don't do K-Fed.
But I'll give one more shout out right now. Is shout out to the Zootspace squad and everybody who fucking really put it out there on the line, especially my boy Wealthy. I already spoke on Wealth throughout the whole conversation, and yeah, big up, peace.